Welcome back to Untested Builds, where we figure out how to play as your favorite fictional characters in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Comment below to suggest characters you want to see built on the channel, subscribe to be notified whenever we post a new build, and join the Patreon to vote in the current viewer request poll between Spawn, Lilith from Borderlands, or Roxas from Kingdom Hearts. Or vote for two of them, or for all three. I have no way of stopping you. Today we're building Satou KAZUMA from KonoSuba, a young man characterized as a lazy shut-in who's slightly lecherous with only the most wafer-thin sense of morality, keeping him from descending into utter creep territory.
Jeez, that's me.
But that all changes after a fateful encounter with a slow-moving tractor on a sunny afternoon where he gets reincarnated into a world with rules ripped straight from an RPG, where he continues to be a lazy, lecherous shut-in with only a wafer-thin sense of morality. None of this is a spoiler, by the way. This is like the first 10 minutes of the show. Our goals for this build, our only notable stats are our intelligence and our luck, meaning this is one of the few times where being weak and squishy is actually a thing we're going for. Second, being in the adventurer class means we can spend our experience learning skills from basically every other class, so we're going to have a decent array of options, even if most aren't very effective. And last, even though most people see straight through our nice guy acts, we've somehow become associated with a party of women who are all black sheep in their own respects, and we are somehow frighteningly effective despite our individual weaknesses. Only in an anime. For our stats, we're using the process outlined on page 20 of the core rulebook. Everything starts at 10, and depending on our ancestry background and class, we take different boosts and flaws to reach our level 1 stats. We're going low to high today and starting with our flaws. We've got an 8 in Constitution. We somehow died in an accident that shouldn't have even harmed a child. 8 in Wisdom. Somehow we not only didn't see that the tractor was only going walking speed, we also didn't have a high enough initiative to get the girl and ourselves to safety in time. Strength and Dexterity at 12. I wish these could be an 8 too, but we need them for multi-classing. Charisma at 14. There's no luck stat in Pathfinder, but we've got to represent our ability to talk our way out of most problems somehow. And lastly, Intelligence at 18. It's the only thing that we have that's worth anything, and we're going to need it to pick up a lot of skills. For our skills, we're legendary in Diplomacy. Getting ample time to talk even during combat is our real ultimate ability. Master in Thievery. Our first and most reliable skills came from the Thief class after all. Master Arcana. We spend our experience on new spells more than anything else. Expert in Stealth. We're no ninja, but with a little magic we can manage at Infiltration. And Expert Crafting. Nothing like having a little hustle on the side for when the quests dry up. The rest of your training is up to you. I don't know what'll be useful in the world your GM reincarnated you to. KAZUMA is a painfully average example of a human, but we've got to choose a heritage, so we're going versatile for an extra general feat, and with as low of HP as we're gonna need die hard so we don't actually die until we reach dying 5 rather than dying at dying 4. We'll take the hermit background. Jokes aside, being a neat or hikikomori or socially unengaged in general is pretty rough. Be patient with people. You never know the full story. Unless you're an omnipotent goddess, I guess. We get training in occultism and lore for a terrain of our choice. I don't think MMO is a valid terrain choice, but we won't be using it anyway. We get the dubious knowledge feat for free, so whenever we make a regular fail on recon knowledge, we still learn a bit of information, but it also comes with some false info too. For our ancestry feat, cooperative nature gives a +4 circumstance bonus to checks to aid. It's going to take a lot before we can make this ragtag group look anything like a coherent party, but this is a start. For our class, we may have the mindset of a rogue and the equipment of a ranger, but we're useless without our magic. And oh boy do we learn a lot of magic. Level 1 wizards gain Arcane Bond, a designated item during our daily preparations we can use for Drain Bonded item to recast a spell we've already prepared and cast once per day as a free action. We choose an Arcane Thesis, and while we need to be taught how to use magic, we actually cast spells more like a sorcerer. Spell substitution allows us to spend 10 minutes to change a spell we've prepared for a day with a different spell we know. We also choose an arcane school to focus on, and like I said, KAZUMA isn't one of the limited options. Universalist wizards can use Drain Bonded item once per day for each spell level available to them, meaning we basically have 4 spells per day per level like a sorcerer. We also get a free level 1 wizard feat, and basically every adventurer in this fantasy world has access to Spellbook Prodigy to learn new spells in half the usual amount of time, and only receiving regular fails on critical fails because frankly, who even tracks materials for learning spells anyway? Speaking of learning spells, Produce Flame is our Tinder to make a spell attack roll to deal 1d4 plus our intelligence modifier of fire damage to a target with an additional 1d4 persistent fire damage on a crit. Ray of Frost is also a spell attack to deal 1d4 plus our intelligence mod of cold damage and giving the target a -10-foot speed penalty on a crit. We can create Earth with Pummeling Rubble to force a reflex save in a 15-foot cone, dealing 2d4 bludgeoning damage to creatures and pushing them away if they fail. And we create Water with Hydraulic Push to perform a spell attack roll to deal 2d6 bludgeoning damage and also push the target away on a hit. And Gust of Wind is our Wind Breath to force Fortitude saves in a 60-foot line until our next turn, knocking prone creatures who fail and knocking prone, dealing 2d6 bludgeoning damage and pushing back 30 feet those who critically fail. Gotta keep those enemies away from us as far as possible. We've only got 13 HP. We use our words as our weapons with Bone Mode to attempt a diplomacy check against a target's will DC to make a distracting quip that gives a -2 penalty to perception checks and will saves for a minute, but we take penalties instead if we critically fail. The target can spend an action to make a check to end the effects early, but even if they succeed, that's less actions they've spent trying to kill us. We have actual weapons too, specifically a short sword and a short bow. We're just a gamer though, so we'll pick up a fighter dedication for training in all simple and martial weapons so we can actually use our newly acquired tools of the adventuring trade. Level 3 wizards can cast second level spells. We can freeze things with Rhyme Slick to deal 2d4 cold damage in a 15-foot burst based on a reflex save, and making the area difficult terrain and knocking creatures who critically fail prone. Blur is just a plain upgrade on the lurk skill. We can make a creature concealed for a minute, forcing anyone who targets us to pass a flat check, otherwise they miss entirely. And invisibility to use concealment to become undetectable by sight for 10 minutes or until immediately after we make a hostile action. For our general feat, Fleet gives us an extra 5 feet of movement speed because what we currently lack in strategic prowess, we more than make up for in the ability to turn tail and run. We'll get some better bow skills with point blank shot to spend an action to gain a +2 circumstance bonus to damage with our short bow as long as our target is within 60 feet. And we'll grab the steal skill with pickpocket to steal or palm a closely guarded object without taking the normal -5 penalty. Kazuma never knows what he's going to get, and neither do you, unless your GM likes describing whatever is in a random NPC's pockets. Level 5 wizards gain lightning reflexes for expert reflex saves. They also gain level 3 spells. The Drain Touch ability was Kazuma's first offensive spell. Vampiric Touch doesn't drain mana because mana doesn't exist in Pathfinder, but it deals 6d6 negative damage to a target based on a Fortitude save, and we gain temporary HP for a minute equal to half the amount of damage we dealt. Meaning on a crit, we could potentially have more temporary HP than actual HP. Fireball exists in practically every fantasy setting, and they pretty much always deal 66 fire damage to creatures in a burst that fail a reflex save. Lightning Bolt is another ubiquitous spell. We force a reflex save in a 120-foot line to deal 4d12 electricity damage. We'll become more reliable even in critical moments with the No One Self Ancestry feat to gain a regular fail as a reaction whenever we would critically fail against an emotion effect. We're starting to get more accustomed to the rules of this new world with Recognize Spell to attempt to identify an incoming spell as a reaction. If we critically succeed at the save, we also gain a +1 circumstance bonus to our AC or save against that spell. We also get a bit better adventuring as a party with Assisting Shot to make an attack with a ranged weapon to give the next creature to attack the same enemy a +1 circumstance bonus on their next attack against them, or a +2 if we happen to critically hit. Level 7 wizards are expert spellcasters who can cast 4th level spells. We're using 2 spells to replicate the escape skill, or at least what I think it is. I don't think we ever actually get to see it in action in the light novel or the anime. Freedom of movement allows a creature in touch range to automatically succeed on escape attempts from grabs, immobilizing effects, or restraints for 10 minutes. They also ignore circumstance penalties to speed. And Dimension Door to teleport up to 120 feet in any direction to a place we can see. Even if we can't completely escape the dungeon, we can at least get ourselves out of any immediate danger. The Numb to Death feat regains us hit points equal to our level for the first time we will recover from dying each day. Dying and being revived by Aqua is like basically an essential part of our strategy at this point. Speaking of strategy, the Martial dedication helps us to be the true hero who might one day lead a party to defeat the Demon King, if only we weren't so lazy. We make a Marshal's Aura in a 10-foot emanation to give all our allies a +1 status bonus against fear effects. We also have to choose either Diplomacy or Intimidation. We're going Diplomacy, but that's not really relevant for our Marshal's Aura just yet. It is relevant for Glad Hand though, to immediately make a Diplomacy check to make an impression whenever we meet a person without needing to spend the usual minute of conversation. That's probably how we get such endearing companions without really even trying. Level 9 wizards gain Magical Fortitude for expert Fortitude saves and 5th level spells. Prying Eye is our Farsight. We make a floating eye in a location we can see up to 500 feet away that can see just as well as our normal eyes, but in every direction. We can only replicate so many fantasy world skills with arcane spells, so we'll take the multi-talented Ancestry feat to pick up the Rogue dedication, giving us Surprise Attack to replicate our enemy detection. Creatures who fail act after us in combat and are flat-footed to us so long as we roll either Deception or Stealth for initiative. We also get an extra skill feat, and the Season feat lets us splash into the Chef class for a +1 circumstance bonus to checks to craft food or drink, even if those foods happen to also be a potion. The Chef class isn't the only crafting class we have skills from. Specialty crafting makes us a better blacksmith as well, giving us a +1 circumstance bonus to craft metal goods and armor as well. We'll take the Nimble Dodge feat to gain a +2 circumstance bonus to our AC against an incoming attack we are aware of as a reaction for some Thief class auto dodge action. Level 11 wizards gain wizard weapon expertise for expert proficiency in weapons we don't even use, and alertness for expert perception proficiency. This is our last perception increase, so we'll squeeze a bit more out of it with incredible initiative for a +2 circumstance bonus to initiative rolls, even the rolls that we make with our deception or stealth modifiers. We can also cast 6 level spells, and teleport can transport up to 4 targets along with ourselves up to 100 miles to a location we know the location of and its relative location to our current location. Location a lot, oh my lord. We're a lot more confident in our spellcasting ability now. Quick recognition allows us to use Recognize Spell as a free action whenever we use our Arcana for the check. We're more confident leading our party as well with the Inspiring Martial Stance to make a diplomacy check upon entering the stand to give our allies within our Marshal's Aura a +1 circumstance bonus to attack rolls and saves against mental effects. If we crit on the check, we also increase the size of our aura up to a 20-foot emanation instead, so maybe darkness can be more than just a meat shield for once in our life. Level 13 wizards gain defensive robes for expert unarmored defense and weapon specialization for an additional 2 damage on our expert weapon attacks, but not with our sword or bow since we're still just trained in those. We'll gain our flash skill with power word blind to permanently blind a creature 11th level or lower, blind a 12th or 13th level creature for 1d4 minutes, or dazzle a 14th level or higher creature for 1 minute. Probably a bit more extreme than a simple flashbang spell, but it's not often we actually get to use power words in these builds, so we're gonna go ham for at least one aspect of this character. The Cooperative Soul Ancestry feat gives us critical success results on regular successes whenever we attempt an aid action, so long as we're at least an expert in the skill we're assisting with. We're going back for some basic thief skills with Wary Disarmament for a +2 circumstance bonus to our AC if we were to trigger a trap while attempting to disarm it. But we also need to be able to find the traps in the first place. The Trap Finder Rogue feat grants us a +1 circumstance bonus to perception checks to find traps, and we can find traps even if we aren't actually searching for them. We can also disable traps that require Master Thievery proficiency even though we're only an expert, and we can disable legendary traps once we're a master. Level 15 wizards are master spellcasters who can cast 8th level spells. We'll use Summon Construct heightened to level 8 because it's the lowest level we can actually summon anything remotely close to an earth golem. We get a construct as a minion sustained for up to a minute, make a stone golem if you think they have disintegrate, make a clay golem if you think you're up against flesh to stone. We'll take the Pilgrim's Token feat to go first if we tie on initiative with a foe. We aren't really part of the Axis order, but we'll take anything we can get to get the most out of our luck stat. We'll finally get our Snipe skill, better late than never, with Incredible Aim to spend 2 actions to gain a +2 circumstance bonus on a ranged weapon strike, ignoring the target's concealed condition. We finally become a true anime protagonist with Legendary Negotiation to spend 3 actions to make an impression and request a foe to come to the negotiation table. We get a -5 on the check, but you never know if your current enemy might become a powerful ally after a few words. Level 17 wizards gain resolve for master will saves and critical success results on regular successes. They also get 9th level spells, and foresight is half the reason we went a spellcasting class in the first place, and also probably the only way we'll be able to stay alive at this level. We give a creature a +2 status bonus to initiative rolls for an hour, and they're no longer flat-footed to hidden, undetected, or flanking creatures. They also gain a reaction they can spend to reroll any saving throw twice and take the better result, or force an enemy to reroll an incoming attack and they take the lower result. With the added danger mitigation, we can focus on making our party a bit better again. Heroic Presence basically lets us cast Zealous Conviction once per day to give up to 10 willing creatures within 30 feet, 12 temporary hit points, and a +2 status bonus to will saves for 10 minutes, or until we say something cringy and give them an order they wouldn't normally follow. Going back for another thief skill with Quick Unlock to use the Pick a Lock activity in 1 action instead of 2. Back to combat stuff where you probably notice we don't have very many offensive spells and our weapon skills are pitiful. Well, that's because our party does the damage dealing for us. The To Battle Martial feat allows us to spend an action to allow a party member to use their reaction to make a stride on our turn, or we can spend 2 actions to allow them to make a strike instead. Pretty much everyone around us is better at attacking thanks to our Marshal's Aura, so let's give them the chance to really take advantage of it. Level 19 wizards are legendary spellcasters who can cast 10th level spells, and Wish is the ultimate mortar to fill the cracks in all of the skills we weren't able to gain. I'm sure your GM won't mind letting you try to use the Rogue's Master Strike class feature, seeing as how you're already using a level 10 spell slot for it, and your attack modifier is super bad. We can also cast Volcanic Eruption from the primal spell list since we finally took Megumin up on her offer to teach us explosion magic. For our final general feat, we'll pick up magical crafting to start a side hustle, making objects from Earth to sell as little trinkets. We use the Read Lips feat to replicate the Assassin class skill to understand a character we can see but are unable to hear so long as they're speaking a language we know. For our Capstone feat, we'll actually dip into one more archetype to gain a skill from Aqua's Goddess class. The Blessed One dedication gives us a focus pool and the Lay on Hands focus spell to restore 60 hit points to a creature in touch range, and we also give them a +2 status bonus to their AC for a round if we target someone other than ourselves. We can also use this offensively against undead to deal 10d6 damage and impose a -2 penalty to their AC, but Kazuma doesn't really know turn undead, even though it probably actually be pretty useful considering he's up against things that are technically dead half the time. But now that we're level 20, let's go over the pros and cons of this build. Like we did with the stats, let's actually go with the bad first. The elephant in the room is how squishy we are. With only 108 HP and 42 AC, we're squishy even by wizard standards, meaning a 10th level Finger of Death could be the end of us, and that definitely sounds like something a guy called the Demon King would be able to do. Second, we spent a lot of class and skill feats to go from genuinely terrible at fighting to only quite bad at it. Wizards don't need weapon training, they have legendary spell casting. Probably better to just cast some big impactful spells rather than use 2 of our precious actions just to give an ally a chance to strike and probably miss on a strike of our own too. For pros, we do actually have a lot of skills, even if none of them are particularly great. We've got some decent utility throughout our spell list, and we can even pull off some decent heists and dungeon crawls with our magic and thievery skills. Other than that, we're a wizard, I guess. Legendary spell casting, a wish spell we could fire off every day, is still decent. Pathfinder makes it kind of hard to build flawed characters, but maybe try wishing for better constitution next time you get reincarnated. Thanks for tuning in to this build. If you're one of my 50% of watchers who's not subscribed, why not subscribe today to help the channel grow and get us closer to that coveted community tab. And tap the bell to get notified whenever we post a new build. And if you're feeling super generous, join the Patreon to vote in polls and download character sheets like these lovely people. Until next time, take care, stay safe, and play more Pathfinder.